Christchurch's Waipapa Papanui Inner's Central Community Board has approved a controversial plan to install several speed bumps and remove 15 car parks along Ferry Road. Now, this is despite most public submitters opposing the move. The decision has sparked frustration from board member and Inner's Council candidate Ellie Jones, who says the voices of residents, businesses and road users have been ignored. And Ellie Jones now joins me. Hello, Ellie.
Hi, Chris.
What's the main concern you've got about this?
Well, I don't think that elected members are listening to members of the public who get involved in these consultations in good faith. I've been saying for years, of course the council listens. Often we're accused of paying lip service to consultation, to having predetermined positions. And I'm saying, no, your involvement is really important in our decision making. I'm finding it really hard to assure people of that. We saw it on Cranford Street. Overwhelming majority not wanting a permanent bus lane down there after 3 years of a bus lane that had achieved absolutely nothing. And the residents and the people who use the road agreed that they didn't want a bus lane, and then the community board ignores that and puts a bus lane in permanently, the very same bus lane that has achieved nothing for 3 years. We might be listening to residents, businesses, others who use the roads and our communities and areas, but we're not hearing them, and we have to start hearing them.
Ellie, just background this for me. Where specifically are these speed bumps on Ferry Road going, and where are we losing the 15 car parks?
Right. Well, the 15 car parks are going from mainly around the areas of the businesses up towards the Aldwins Road end. And the speed bumps are going along...
Of course. Sorry to interrupt. Of course they're going where businesses are. That makes sense to get rid of car parks from businesses.
Well, this is what frustrates me. The businesses made very, very clear submissions on what it would do to their businesses, and we've seen it happen around the city, Chris. But, in fact, the 15 car park removal issue, from memory, wasn't even discussed around the table yesterday. Yes, it was in the report, and yes, it's up to us as elected members to raise it. But the point is that it almost was like an afterthought. 15 car parks are a significant number, and here we've got businesses that are struggling and are saying, please don't remove them, and we're removing them.
So you're also saying, and I think I've seen some of the stuff to suggest the majority of submitters were opposed to this plan, but elected representatives still voted in favour. So does that suggest democracy in this process is broken? Or does it actually suggest democracy is working because the elected representatives have still made the decision to say yes with the speed bumps and the removal of car parks?
Well, I guess voters put people around the community board and the council table. So if you want to say that's democracy at work, then it's democracy at work. Fortunately, we've got an election coming up. And if people are unhappy with that type of democracy and those decisions being made by the people they elected around those tables, now's the time for them to change the people around those tables. I think what's frustrating is that we're seeing, and I continue to see, Chris, an ideology here. I see a one-size-fits-all speed bump policy. So we whack these things in willy-nilly at a cost to slow traffic down, when in fact they were first invented, used in the UK in residential streets. They were called sleeping policemen, and they were to slow traffic down in residential areas. This is a main arterial route. It was noted in the reports and information that we got. This is one of the main arterial routes from Littleton, from the port, from that side of town into the centre of town. And I asked that. I said, what are the measures? This was of our transport team, how do you decide that it is appropriate to put speed bumps and crossings across a main arterial route? And the response that we're getting back from staff is, hey, look, we're trying to make this more livable, more walkable, being used for everyone. It's used a lot by cars, so we're trying to balance that out. It's a bloody road. Of course we've got to make things safer when we can, but we have to start making informed decisions that are not informed by blinkered ideology.
Is it ideology though? Because I can hear some of those people that would criticise you on this and saying this is not ideology, this is evidence-based. We're trying to slow the road, or we're trying to slow the traffic down so we lessen the chances of cyclists being mowed over by speeding cars.
It's degrees in reasonableness, Chris. We could also reduce the death rates on the roads if we all stayed at home and sat on our couches with helmets on, which is a ridiculous notion. So it's degrees of. And in fact, one of my colleagues made the point, that very point you just made about this being evidence-based. Well, I tell you what, smoking a packet of cigarettes a few decades ago was also we were told was good for us because that was evidence-based. We were also told that modern learning environments, open plan classrooms, were great because that was evidence-based. This is a policy du jour, right? And it's being used because there's stuff that's been written about it. We're getting Auckland Transport stuff quoted in our reports as well. There is no evidence that I am seeing in the reports that we're getting that those speed bumps are going to help both drivers, pedestrians, and of course others that use scooters as well.
I know you're reluctant to go down the road of criticising staff. However, these are recommendations that have been made by staff. And I also note too, when I've done a public post, thousands and thousands of people rejected speed bumps saying we just don't need them, get rid of them. So are we also facing a problem where council staff simply don't like listening to the majority of people as well?
That's a really interesting question, and I think you would have to ask staff and managers that. I think that our council teams all work extremely hard, and I don't mean to be blowing smoke up anyone's patootie there, but the point is that I think this has become embedded. I think that this has become the way that our officers and experts are expected to present. They follow guidelines by NZTA. They don't have to. They're not bound to. I asked that question yesterday. They follow those guidelines. Now, I raised this when we were looking at the Cranford Street situation and the Dean's Mosque speed bump situation there. And the problem is, I think, and as we saw from the Dean's Avenue situation, we weren't even presented options that we could actually vote on. One option in the Dean's Avenue speed bump debacle and one option in the Ferry Road debacle yesterday. One option in each of those couldn't be voted on because it had not been worked up by staff into a condition that it could be voted on. And you know why? Because our teams, our transport teams, our staff, our officers don't believe that it will get across the line so they don't waste their time. And I'm not just making that up. That came straight from a council spokesperson after the Dean's Avenue carry on.
Where we've got one speed bump on one side and not on the other side because they represent different wards.
That's right. So as you drive down there of an evening when it's rather congested anyway and you slow down for that hump and nearly go up the butt of the car in front of you, because who would expect a bump in the middle of a main road like that? You peer over to the other side of the road and the traffic is just flowing gently down the road. And actually flowing, that's a really important thing I just want to raise. There's a lot made about time delay. And our council teams often say things like, oh, the delay is 6 seconds. Oh, the delay is about 4 seconds. It's actually not about that. It's about the congestion and the frustration of sitting in traffic. I've heard that from people. You hear that when you actually talk to the people who are in cars. So that's why people rat run. Sometimes it doesn't make it any faster for them, but they can at least keep moving. And that's something I don't think the council transport team considers in their decision making.